it's working. It is on the square, yeah, and there's the time.
Okay.
Jolinda Stevens here at the ACLU, and I'm with Liezl
Rebugio.
and I'm with, oh Lord, Rebugio. Everybody wants to call me now. Let's start again.
Okay.
Jolinda Stevens here at the ACLU, and I'm with Liezl Rebugio. She's the field director for the ACLU, and we're talking about the death penalty. Liezl, for the 8 years that UU Voices for Justice has been in existence, we've had the death penalty, ending the death penalty, towards the top of our list of things we wanted to happen. We do it for a number of theological and spiritual reasons. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that everyone has worth and everyone is entitled to dignity. There is no dignity or worth in the death penalty. We also, generations ago, decided that the world was not divided into the saved and the damned. We're all in this together. So those are kind of the points from which we come when we look at the death penalty. And it looks like we have a better opportunity to abolish the death penalty now than we've had ever or in a very long time, because Governor Inslee decided on a moratorium last spring and boosted a conversation. So tell me, what are the major policy points around abolishing the death penalty?
Well, thank you for having me here, and I'm glad that your community is really committed to ending the death penalty in Washington. So as far as the policy arguments, I would say first and foremost, the death penalty just costs too much money. It costs a lot more than life without parole. Replacing the death penalty or ending the death penalty would save counties about $2 million per year, because it's the counties that are responsible for actually paying for the most expensive parts of the death penalty process. It includes prosecution, defense, expert witnesses. There are also additional savings in the cost of appeals. Counties can save between $300,000 to $400,000 per case through this appeals process. Also, the death penalty is just not cost effective. Of all the cases that have been tried and individuals who have been convicted of death since the reinstatement of the law in 1981, about 80% of those cases have been overturned and have not reached the final disposition of death. So counties are just spending all this money, and a death sentence is not actually carried out in 80% of those times. It's important to have these safeguards that are provided by the appeals process, because we don't want to risk anyone being executed if they are innocent. Because the reason why the death penalty is so expensive is because state and local governments really need to use extensive resources during investigation and prosecution to ensure that innocent individuals aren't sent to death row, and that's through this appellate review. Resources are much better spent to protect public safety and also to support murder victim family members. There are a number of family members who are supporting the campaign and who do support repeal because they see the importance of, and they value spending money elsewhere, supporting cold case units to be reopened, providing social services to families who have lost loved ones, for example, like counseling. And I should mention that not all family members are on the same page. There's a very diverse collection of opinion on the death penalty among family members. And we're very fortunate to be working with quite a handful of family members who support repeal. And I would say finally, the death penalty is applied unevenly and unfairly in Washington. If you look at the individuals who are on death row today, more than half of them committed a single murder. And if we look at individuals like Gary Ridgway, who killed 49 women and who didn't get death, and he got life without parole, you can see that it's not applied fairly. But also, if we look at individuals' income level, that has an impact on whether or not prosecutors seek death. Also, where the crime occurred has an impact on whether death is sought. Because again, counties are the local entities that are responsible for paying for most of the costs for a death sentence or a death case. We can look at Clallam County. A Clallam County administrator actually said, if we had a death penalty case and had to pay $1 million in legal costs, we'd go bankrupt. That was a quote. You can find it in this great editorial piece by Jonathan Martin with the Seattle Times. Last year, Clallam County spent $1 million on the retrial of Gerald Stenson, and he was initially sent to death row in 1994. So after spending the $1 million and 2 months into the process, the Clallam County prosecutor decided to not seek death in the retrial. And if we look at what's happening in King County, as of this month in October, the Carnation Killings case is almost at the $12 million mark, which was what was spent in the investigation and trial against Gary Ridgway. So those are the top reasons, top policy reasons for ending the death penalty, and lawmakers are really listening to those reasons.
Something really to think about. Thank you. So tell me, why should we focus on the death penalty this particular coming year?
Well, there's a national tide towards repeal. Nationally, the support for a death penalty is steadily decreasing. The Gallup poll did a survey in 2014 and found that 61% of Americans view the death penalty as morally acceptable. So 61% still supports the death penalty. In 2006, it was 71%. So support for the death penalty is going down. It's slow, but it's a national trend that is helping to move this conversation forward. And we've also seen a number of states pass repeal bills. In the past 7 years, we've had 6 states. Most recently was Maryland, that through their legislature passed a repeal bill in 2013. If we look to Oregon and Colorado, their governors have declared a moratorium. And in 2012, California had a ballot measure to end the death penalty. Now, unfortunately, they didn't win, but the final result was 48% of the California voters voted yes to end the death penalty, and 52 voted no to keep the death penalty.
Vanessa, Jeffrey Patterson is on line 1.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
So what was a 40% gap in 1978 in California has shrunk into just a 4-point gap today. So that's movement. And then here in Washington, we also have momentum. Governor Inslee declared a moratorium in February of this year, and that has helped to advance conversations with lawmakers. So what we found as a result of the moratorium announcement is that lawmakers now have this space to talk to one another openly about whether they think the death penalty is the right policy for Washington. And then shortly after Governor Inslee's announcement, two former DOC officials wrote a guest editorial piece in the Seattle Times.
Excuse me, and DOC is
Oh,
what?
I'm sorry. Shortly after Governor Inslee's moratorium announcement, 2 former Department of Correction officials wrote a guest editorial in the Seattle Times expressing their support for the governor's actions. So that was former Department of Correction Secretary Eldon Vail and former prison director Dick Morgan. And the ACLU, along with other campaign endorsers, continue to have conversations with lawmakers and making sure that we get the right people to join those discussions. For example, we're working closely with Department of Corrections officials, law enforcement, judges, prosecutors, murder victim and family members who support repeal, and to get them to have one-on-one conversations with lawmakers. So it's finding individuals who you might think wouldn't be on the team for repeal, but actually are, and getting them to have an opportunity to share their story with lawmakers. It has been really effective. And having those supporters really help gain bipartisan support. And we certainly can't win this fight without bipartisan support.
So how can Unitarian Universalist Voices for Justice and Unitarian Universalists, how can we influence it? What sort of impact can we have on this?
Well, this is an effort to get legislators to abolish the death penalty, and we think there's an actual chance of this because lawmakers are getting increasingly aware of the high cost of the death penalty, but also the shifting perception by the public. And their lawmakers are getting to the point where they may feel like a vote against the death penalty won't come with a political price tag, but they can have the space where they can vote their conscience. So there are a few ways we would love for your community to help with this campaign. One is with the legislation itself. So once the session starts and the legislation is introduced, we would love for your community members to contact their legislators and ask them to support the bill. We're also, the ACLU is also going to be hosting a lobby day on February 10th in Olympia, and we would love to pack the room with supporters, and we especially need supporters from outside of King County, and to come down to attend the lobby day, to come to hearings, and to meet with their lawmaker. We're also using this postcard as a tool. So this is the advocacy postcard that we are asking our campaign endorsers to get signed by members of their organization and other supporters, and we'll be collecting these and delivering them to lawmakers at Lobby Day. But they also help us identify murder victim family members, retired judges, former cops, the type of supporters that really bend the ear of lawmakers. So we would welcome UU Voices to do something similar, and actually one of our campaign endorsers in Eastern Washington has set an organizational goal of collecting 500 postcards. So we'd love for UU Voices to do something similar. And then finally, we are looking to expand our base of organizations that support repeal. So expanding our endorsement list. Right now we have 30 organizations that have endorsed the Safe and Just Alternatives campaign, and I imagine UU congregations and UU individual members across the state have relationships with other organizations that are like-minded and that support repeal. So we would love to get other organizations to sign on to the campaign and show their support.
So would you consider congregations important endorsers also?
I think so, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Liezl. I appreciate enlightening us and giving us some food for thought as we decide what our issues are going to be this coming session.
Well, thanks for this opportunity to talk with you and your members about this important issue, and I wish you the best in your discernment process.
Thank you.